Hello, my name is Jason and welcome back to I Have a Story. Here I want to tell my story about why I gave up sports. When I was a kid, I've been an athlete my entire life up until I got injured. As an adult, when I got injured as an adult, uh, I was the biggest baseball fanatic kid that I in my neighborhood, at least that I knew. I used to record them on cassette with the games. Detroit Tigers. That was my team. I used to record the sunlight in my eyes. I'm gonna have to move. I used to record the games on cassette tape and come home at night and listen to them. But I gave up baseball when they went on strike and said $1 million a year is not enough. We want 10. I didn't agree with that. That I would have done it for $50,000 a year and been the happiest man alive. You get to play a game, but we might get hurt. What about an officer might get shot? Even a paramedic, a school teacher, any of those. They're much more important than sports, playing, entertainment. So I quit watching baseball. Um, I turned to basketball. The problem with basketball went to Shaquille O'Neal. Always, if my team's not in it, I always root for the underdog. That's the way I was raised. My grandpa was like that, and I got it from him. I always root for the underdog. So I don't remember exactly what year it was, or even exactly what team they were playing. But Shaquille O'Neal was in. They were in the playoffs, and they were playing. I believe it was an East Coast team. And you can go back and pull this. I'm sure in the archive somewhere, this game is still out there. Uh, and Shaquille O'Neal was getting stomped on by the underdog nobody team, and the refs threw the game. And it was so blatant that they were doing it that even the announcers during the game were admitting it and talking about it. And they came. I remember all. I mean, this was years and years and years ago. I remember the announcer saying that, well, the reason it's happening is because if Shaquille doesn't go, they're going to lose ratings. They came out and said that right on the air. I didn't think that was right. I was actually so proud of that other team for whooping on him and what they did. It was amazing. I mean, sports is amazing, and people's skills. God, in basketball, you look at Michael Jordan, you look at Jason Kidd in the day. They were amazing athletes. The things they did was phenomenal, amazing. Is it worth millions of dollars? Not when we don't have millions of dollars to put in our systems to do what needs to be done to take care of our country. That's what should come first. We live in a world full of adult children now that just want to be entertained, and it's wrong. They would rather be entertained than stand up and do what is right. And I do have regrets that I haven't always done what was right in my life, and more times than not, in those cases, that I just didn't do anything at all, and because I was scared and a lot of other reasons. Um, so then I turned to college football. It was a sport where the athletes were still playing with heart. They weren't earning any money. They were doing it for the love of the sport and to prove themselves in playing with their heart. I lived in Ohio. I was an Ohio State Buckeyes fan. Huge. Almost every car I've ever owned always had a stereo system, a system in it. And I listen to all varieties of music, but I like my music to sound good. I like to feel like I'm at a concert when I turn it up. Um, so I even had, over the years having pizza jobs and delivering pizza and whatnot. I would Ohio State Michigan Day. My radio was always cranked up, and the Ohio State marching band was on there. I remember back in little picture tube TVs, and I'd have one on my dash and watch the game and pull it off the air. I had that connected to my radio, and just for that one day. That was the only reason that I even had that TV was just for that one day. I go deliver my pizza, and I mean, I was so good. I made so much money delivering pizza. I was amazing at it. I turned it to a business and not just, oh, I'm just a kid here to uh, make a buck. I remember the last Michigan Ohio State day that I worked, they pulled out the um, delivery drivers information for all of us, and I did more deliveries during the Ohio State Michigan game than any other two drivers they could put together. And they said, "How did you do that?" Well, I turned it into a sport. I enjoyed it. I loved it. And I had customers call and request me as a driver because I was so good with them and playing with their kids and their animals and still getting more deliveries done than anybody else. So that was a really special day for me for many years. But then a few years ago, a reporter dug up a story about and aired this about how one of the Ohio State coaches was doing drugs and abusing his wife and cheating on his wife. And it even came out that he was bringing women home and having affairs inside his house while his wife and kids are even there. And even beyond and above what got reported and aired, nobody knows even all the other stuff that happened that isn't even done, wasn't even talked about. That's just a terrible, terrible thing all the way around, all the way around. So after that reporter came out and aired that case to the public, what happened? The student faculty in the Ohio State crowd threatened to kill the guy who brought that story to light. If that isn't all bad enough, what happened after that? The school even supported it and took the coach and the team side and who cared about the woman and the child and all that. Nobody, not a single person stood up for her, did they? Except for the one man who got threatened to be killed. I look back, I mean, it's part of why I'm so glad I don't live in Ohio anymore. I look at every woman I see with an Ohio State shirt on, I look at them and I go, in my head, think, how can you wear that? I mean, show me one woman who doesn't believe in women's rights and supporting women and all of that, which is great. But at the end of the day, you're wearing a shirt supporting the opposite. I had my wife at the time, because I have vision problems and I couldn't read it. I asked her to pull up the investigative report after it was all said and done and said, will you read this to me? We were both just absolutely disgusted by it. A coach who has severe mental illness and can't remember the wife's the coach's wife coming to him and reporting all this stuff, to going to his wife, coming to their house. Don't recall the coach who comes on drugs and shows up late and doesn't do his job and doesn't show up and all the stuff that came out in that report. He's got such severe mental illness, but that he can't remember all of that happening. But he had enough memory to delete all the evidence of it. He had enough memory to be able to make millions of dollars and do a wonderful job. I mean, he was from the outcome, I don't know everything behind the scenes and nobody does. Obviously, there's one of the behind the scenes things that wasn't good. Who stood up for that woman and kid? That coach is still out as a professional college football coach today. The school didn't fire him. The team stood up for him and the school stood up for him. I couldn't support that. That day I gathered up and I had tons of Ohio State stuff. And I gathered it all up and put it in a pile. And the next day my teenage son was there and he was an Ohio State fan and we watched the games together. And I explained to him, this is why I can't watch them with you anymore. If you come here and you want to watch it, that's fine. You want any of my Ohio State stuff, you're welcome to have any of it. Whatever you don't want, it's all going out and getting burned because I won't even give it to somebody else. So I took it all out and put it in the fire, burned it. The reason these things continue to happen is because people support themselves and not right and wrong. We'll cry about it, cry about it, cry about it, but at the end of the day, what do you do about it? Do you support it or do you stand up for it? It's part of my big problem. I've given up all, and I found out too, when I gave up my sports, I had more time to spend with my kids. I wasn't telling my little boy anymore who, at the time, 1 or 2 years old, shh, daddy's trying to watch the game. I didn't do that anymore. I spent time with him. I thought that was my couple hours of daddy time and maybe even my daddy and older son time, but at the end of the day, I couldn't support it. And I found that I got more enjoyment out of spending time with my family than I did sitting there at a game going, shh, daddy's trying to watch. And my team was even on top, you know? That didn't matter to me. That's what most of these people, oh, our team's winning. We have a great team. We're going to support the team and we're going to feel good because we don't know what to talk about around the coffee pot on a Monday morning at work. What will we talk about then? We'll talk about what you did with your kid. Um, I couldn't support it. I'm trying to get these videos aired out, and I've got a whole lot of them to do, and I've got a lot of work to do, and I've got so many battles to fight right now. Tomorrow I have court. I still got to get ready for that. Now I get to go defenseless against a ruthless attorney. This is going to be fun. But I'm asking you, go pull that investigative report. It's out there to the public. And you read it for yourself and tell me you can support that. Tell me that's what you stand behind, because I won't. So I gave it up. Given up a lot of things in my life. It was harder giving up some of the drugs that I did back in my past 13, 14, 15 years ago. It really wasn't that hard to give up another thing that was entertainment. I'll find another way that I feel morally valued and supportive of to entertain myself. Which my kids did that for me. They were my entertainment. They got me be a kid, not just thinking like an adult all the time. Let's go play. That was my entertainment. And the more and more I found that I turned to that, the better I felt about myself, the more my kids loved me, and all of it. The outcome of that is a beautiful thing. So that's why I gave up sports, because no matter what, if I know something I'm doing is supporting corruption, I won't do it. That's why corruption continues, because people keep continuing to support it, but then want to say, what's wrong? Why is this happening? Um, that's why, because you keep supporting it. Again, every woman I see wearing an Ohio State shirt, I really, in my head, have to question, what do you stand for? Do you really care about women's rights, or do you really care about right and wrong, or do you really care about just my team's winning? It seems to become the mentality and more in this country. They worry more about entertainment and being happy than being adults. That's why I gave up sports.